and gentlemen, and a very, very warm welcome to one of our penultimate webinars in Highr's Summer of Learning. To those of you who have been with us through this month-long journey, we're now in our final week of our Summer of Learning. And to those of you who are joining us today for the first time, welcome to Highr. My name is Pallavi Dwivedi, and I'm the founder of Highr. And the Summer of Learning is Highr's initiative to upskill teachers and build on their pedagogical practices and prepare for the future of classrooms, to the changes that classrooms are going to be experiencing, some changes that we've already encountered, and other changes which are yet to come and which we need to prepare for. So welcome to one and all. In today's session, which actually is something that I perhaps was looking to do more for myself than anybody else, to be very honest. And we have two very, very special panelists who are going to be talking to us about their secrets. And what exactly are we going to be talking about today? Time management, something that we've all been struggling with over the last 3-4 months now since we've moved into lockdown. And with all the lines between work and home blurring, with all of us struggling to keep up with these crazy schedules that we find ourselves navigating, with all the new changes that we need to adapt to, how do we make time for everything that's important to us as educators, as people, as wives, as husbands, as sons and daughters, as Samaritans, things that we'd like to build into our everyday without feeling overwhelmed, without feeling burnt out, and at the same time looking after our mental health and well-being. So we will be touching upon all of these different aspects for educators specifically today. And before we begin, just very quickly taking you through some housekeeping rules. So here we are. For today's session, the panelists are not going to be able to see you. We don't use the raise your hand feature in this session. So we do request you to use the Q&A and the chat box as extensively as you'd like. Do put in your questions in the Q&A. It helps us find the questions faster. And for those of you who would like to make observations, who'd like to share your own learnings, your own tips, your own strategies, do please feel free to spread all of that knowledge, put it in the chat box and let other educators benefit from that. We do encourage as much healthy debate as we possibly can have, but we also request all to extend all the necessary courtesies towards one another. We do need as much love as we can in these incredibly unprecedented times. The webinar recordings, for those of you who do ask us often, you will be receiving all webinar recordings and resources via email. We will also be uploading these on our website for you to be able to access conveniently. A very popular question that comes up every time after each webinar: are we offering certificates? No, we don't. We don't certify our webinars. Our webinars are open, free learning events. You're more than welcome to come and attend, to learn, to share, to invite friends. We don't, however, certify attendance. So those are the housekeeping rules. And talking to all of you a little bit about how we at Highr think about quality teaching and how that ties into everything that we bring to you as a teacher professional development company. The Highr's Big Four of quality teaching is the framework that we follow when we are bringing any initiatives, be it our webinars or our workshops or our live mentoring sessions, or even all the resources that you find on our website. They're all structured around these big four areas that we feel teachers must be able to demonstrate their competencies in. The first being planning for classroom delivery, the second being designing instruction, the third being managing student progress, and the fourth being practicing professionalism, which is the focus for this week's events at Highr. So that's everything about us. And I'm now going to quickly introduce you to the two really special guests that we have on our panel today. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Indu Yadav. Ms. Yadav is the founder principal at the Lotus Valley International School, Noida Extension. She is also an extremely enthusiastic educator, having taught for many decades before now moving on to taking on the mantle of being the principal at Lotus Valley. I'd also like you to welcome our second panelist, Claire White. Claire is the head of the junior section at King's College in Rohtak. King's College is a residential school, and Claire heads their junior wing and is originally from Scotland and is joining us from there this afternoon as well. So welcoming both participants to today's session, and we're really looking forward to hearing from them about all of their insights with their teams and with their own teaching practices when it comes to time management for teachers, for themselves, for the teachers on their team, and also looking at how they have both been particularly navigating these challenging times and guiding their teacher teams with managing their classrooms and their own personal spaces more. So with that, I'd like to hand over the floor to our first panelist for today, Ms. Indu Yadav. Over to you.
Okay, just give me a moment, please.
No worries.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar. And special thank you to Pallavi for organizing these webinars for educators to transition from brick to click model of teaching. So, and to all the educators who have joined us today, I would just like to say kudos to you for having embraced the change from in-person classes to online classes. So while we all have transitioned from in-person classes to the online classes, and I would just like to share with all of you that the journey has been replete with challenges. So it hasn't really been extremely easy going for most of us. And it's because we'd had to plan PPTs, we had to plan our lessons online, and find out online resources, and also online assessments. So it's been quite a ride. And the sheer quantum of work and paucity of time really added on to us feeling completely overwhelmed. So, which is why I think we are here and to discuss about time management for teachers. So today I would be talking about primarily 6 key themes. First would be how to prioritize, and then how to create a time audit for ourselves, and how to work smart, eliminate half work, and avoid multitasking. This would also be added by how to instill keystone habits in our daily routine. Well, so to begin with, so as I said earlier, the quantum of work and the fact that we are working from home, and we have added responsibilities of looking after our families, and attending to household chores, and also doing our school work. So it has really overwhelmed all of us. So this, I'm going to be talking about how to prioritize in spite of everything. So this is from the famous book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. So wherein he talks about 4 quadrants to manage our work. So how to really use these quadrants and decipher for ourselves how exactly we can divide our work in these quadrants. So the first quadrant that he talks about is urgent and important. So here we have tasks which are deadline driven, which talk about crisis and certain other pressing problems that we have, and which are absolutely urgent and important to be attended to. So Stephen Covey says that one shouldn't really spend too much time in this quadrant, not more than 5% of one's time, because this can lead to stress and burnout. So he says that second quadrant is the quadrant of productivity. So if we stay in this quadrant for, let's say, 75% of our time, then we can really be productive, because this quadrant is meant for planning, preparation, building self and building relationships. So when we are in this quadrant, we have fewer crises, we feel there's a sense of balance and discipline, and we are in control of things. So the third quadrant that he speaks about is not important yet urgent. So which means that phone calls that we receive, the emails that we get, and some messages, meetings that we need to attend to. So these are not important. Well, they can be sometimes important, but definitely urgent. So we should spend again 15% of our time in quadrant 3. So quadrant 4 is the quadrant, as he says, quadrant of waste. So this is basically, the time that we spend on social media, watching Netflix or TV shows. So life has to go on, and there should be some entertainment, but one should not really be spending more than 5% of one's time in quadrant 4. So, this is the division that Stephen Covey has given. And if we manage to stay in the second quadrant, we definitely can manage our time well. So, we can also do a time audit to check where exactly our time goes. Sometimes we don't really realize, where our time goes. So it's a good idea, to create a time audit. And most of us now are tech savvy, and we can download different apps which can help us to do this time audit. So one of them is Rescue Time. So it can actually show where exactly we are spending our time. And once we know that, we definitely would know how to switch over to quadrant 2. So after we find out where our time is going and what are the time stealers, then we should set aside a time limit for every task that we undertake. So it's important, because otherwise we can keep stretching on with the same task endlessly. So while we set aside cutoff time for each task, I think we can keep some buffer time also between our tasks, because they could be spillovers. So to handle those spillovers, it's important that we keep some buffer time as well. Now, it's very imperative that we prepare a to-do list. I'm sure, you must be doing that already, but if you're not doing it, just start preparing a to-do list. So that really helps one get clarity as to what are the tasks which are to be done first and what should be done later. And another suggestion that I could give is to prepare this to-do list one night before. And that's what, I have been doing, and it really has helped me quite a lot. So, mornings are normally the most productive time for most of us. And since mornings are the most productive time, so one should do the most important tasks also in the morning. As Mark Twain said, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. So do the most important things in the morning so that you have that sense of accomplishment and achievement, and that really kind of eggs you on to move on with the rest of the tasks during the day. Another important thing is to work in collaboration with each other. So collaboration, like amongst teachers also, teachers can work in collaboration. Let's say if there are 4 to 5 teachers or more teachers, they can divide work amongst themselves. For example, for lesson planning, some teachers could look at the resources that need to be incorporated in the lesson plan. Some teachers could look at assessments. Some teachers could look at technology and apps that need to be used. And some teachers could just put it all together. So as a result, the individual time spent by each teacher gets reduced. And I think the whole work is more productive. So one can collaborate even with students. So I'm sure some of you are already practicing flip learning. So we have been doing flip learning in our classrooms, and it really works extremely well because the amount of time that the teacher would spend on correcting homework, that time gets taken care of in flip learning. So here the teacher gives out resources, study material, and videos to the learners, and learners could go through those videos and study material at home. So that is their homework. And they can come back with their questions, queries, problems, suggestions, discussions in the class, and the content or the topic gets taken care of. So flip learning really helps a great deal. And even office hours. So this time when in June we were planning for July. So that time, that was a time when, we all were completely overwhelmed, with the quantum of work. So we decided to switch to quadrant 2 to plan ahead for July. And let me tell you, that it's really been a breeze in July with all the planning having been done in June. So in that planning, we had also kept office hours. So these office hours really help a great deal because students can go to the teachers after the school time gets over and discuss their problems, their queries, their doubts, and one-on-one they can clear their doubts and queries. So it does really help a great deal. Another thing which I feel is very important is to eliminate half work. So half work is incomplete work. So as I said earlier, since we are working from home and we do have demands of our family and household chores, so it may happen that when we are in the middle of doing our school work, there could be something that is demanded from us by our family. So I would suggest it's better that we segregate our school work from our household chores and family time. This would really ensure that our focus is completely there for that particular job that we are doing. So because half work can really give a lot of anxiety and stress. So one should try and avoid having any incomplete work left. Well, this is interesting, so we women feel that we are queens of multitasking. And sometimes, we really say it with a lot of pride that I can multitask, without any pain and without any problems. Whereas studies reveal just the opposite. So studies show that our brain cannot handle multitasking. So our brain is designed to handle one task at any given point of time. So when we try to multitask, it really affects our brain's efficiency. And it also reduces our focus and concentration and brings down, our accuracy and IQ as well. So if we are looking at time management, I think we should avoid multitasking. Well, so this is one of my favorites, and this is tested and tried. Uh, Here, if we can try and incorporate keystone habits in our daily routine. Now, keystone habits are those habits which have a ripple effect on everything that we do. As a result, improving the quality of our life. So keystone habits could be, let's say for some, it could be getting up early in the morning, or for some, it could be sleeping early at night. For some, it could be meditation, and for others, it could be exercise. So whatever habits you feel can impact your life and can be transformational for you, please try and instill those keystone habits. And these habits can really help us manage our time much better. Well, so right towards the end, this is a technique which can be tried out. So I talked about half work and not really, losing focus. So this is a technique which can help us to stay on our task. So this is called Pomodoro technique. And here, Pomodoro is basically the kitchen timer. So we can set the kitchen timer or any of the apps, so one of the apps is Focus Keeper. So we set that app for, let's say, 25 minutes, or it can be 30, 35 minutes, as per your requirement and need. So you set the timer for that particular time. And during that time, please avoid all distractions. Whether it's a phone call, your impulse to check messages on WhatsApp, or going to Facebook or Instagram, or attending to calls, mail. So just, avoid all distractions and focus on your work for 25 minutes. And after 25 minutes, when the timer goes off, you take a break for 5 minutes, right? And if you follow 4 cycles of Pomodoro, then you can take a longer break. So this does help in improving our concentration and focus. And if we have better focus and concentration, it does reduce the time taken for each and every task that we undertake. So it's important, that we have time for ourselves, So as I said in the beginning, when we are in quadrant 2, we have time for self-development also. So, it's very important as teachers that we spend some time on developing ourselves, whether it's reading, exercising, keeping fit, or doing whatever. So it's really important that we stay in quadrant 2. So that's all from my side, and I do hope that you would be able to incorporate some of these suggestions and techniques, and be more productive and efficient in your working. So thank you very much, and over to you, Pallavi.
Thank you so much. Just listening to you talking about time management has helped me feel a lot less stressed out about everything that I need to do for the rest of the day. So thank you so much for these absolutely insightful strategies. It's been really useful, particularly the 4 quadrants. I think that has really been one of the most effective things that I've been able to utilize. When I start planning out my own day, everything seems urgent. Everything seems that it needs to be done just right now. And I think this is one of the questions that also come up from one of our participants. And I'm just going to open this out to both of you. That how is it that you decide between what you need to do first? How do you establish priorities? That typically is something that most people struggle with, because everything seems important. Everything seems like it needs to be done immediately. So how do we manage that?
Okay, so Claire, would you like to, or okay, I can talk about it. So when you have to set your priorities, and you have to decide what exactly is really important, I think it's essential to look at, from what perspective are you looking at that task. So as a teacher, let's say, if you have to decide, whether I need to, plan my lesson first, or I need to, look at assessments. So I think one has to go step by step. So before actually starting with assessments, it's important that you plan your lessons and then go on to assessments. And in planning of the lesson, it's important, that you start with the basics. So, if you have your rubrics for Bloom's taxonomy, you would know, what exactly you are looking at, whether you are looking at, children just understand the lesson, or you want them to, apply, analyze, and then go on to the next level. And depending on that, you decide what kind of activities you want to plan. So, so what kind of resources you would like to explore. So I think it depends, from what exactly we are looking at, and then prioritize. And if you are looking at, being a mom, so what exactly, first is, that your babies should be safe, then they should be fed well, then your family, should really have time for interaction, so it depends, whether you are looking at your time from the perspective of being a teacher, or a parent, or a spouse.
Absolutely, which actually also is another question that one of our participants was asking, that there are times when you as a parent feel like you're neglecting your own child in the process of taking care of your own students. So how does one strike that balance?
Yeah. Okay, so Claire, do you want to answer that?
I'm going to actually refer to a member of my staff here, Miss Jyoti. I don't know if she's listening, but her son, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind me mentioning, Manan is in Standard 1, and we're doing our online classes at the moment. She's teaching, Standard 3, but she's got her wee son in Standard 1. So what she's done, and I think this is wonderful, she's used her son to do the teaching. So we've some fantastic little videos of Manan counting forwards and backwards. So she's got Manan going up the steps and down the steps, and she's recording it. She's putting it on the WhatsApp group for the Standard 1 parents. But Manan cannot take part in his classes because Mum's got to have the laptop at that time. But Mum then at the end of the day still has time for him, records it, and then gives it to the Standard 1 parents. It's fantastic. She's got a video website. She's got a YouTube channel where she's using her little boy to, do all the learning that he's maybe missing in class because he can't attend the classes because there's just one laptop. And it's great. So actually he feels really special because Mum's paying complete attention and doing it really well, because Mum then has to give it to the rest of the staff and the parents. So it's great. So she's using her son as a little learning tool. So it's worked well for her. So maybe that's what some mums you could do out there. Use your child to help you teach something that you might want to teach in the class, and put a little video together, because video clips are great. It saves some screen time. So just a little suggestion that one of my staff have done, and it's really exciting.
That's absolutely fantastic. And what a clever way of actually building some quality fun things to do with your kid into your own lessons. What a beautiful idea. Thank you so much for that, Claire. And I think that for a lot of teachers, this is a real struggle, what you mentioned, where you said that they need, not all devices at home are accessible to everybody at the same time, which does pose significant challenges, both in terms of being, for us as teachers, to be able to do our classes, and then also be able to allow for our child to be able to use that, the same device to do their own classes and so on. And I think that there are a lot of teachers who have very cleverly planned around their own child's timetable. So for example, if at any point in time there is a class that is clashing with their child's class, they have also been able to work around the single device problem by pre-recording a lesson and assigning asynchronous tasks at that particular point in time so that they don't need to use the laptop if their child requires the laptop at that particular point in time. And also, in terms of, and this is something we all feel that a lot of the times when the boundaries between work and home get blurred, you don't know when to stop.
Yeah.
And that's happening for a lot of us right now, where while we would sort of wrap up our work at school, or maybe stay on a couple of half an hour, 45 minutes extra in school, finish everything, and then go back home. There's no that buff seems to have gone away. So we're not being able to segregate between the number of hours we would want to put for school and the number of hours we would want to give our family. But to that, I would say that teachers, even me as a founder, I have to draw the same balance. And for me, what's really important is that I draw a hard stop. At 7 o'clock, I tell myself, this is it. Regardless of what I might need to do next, there is tomorrow. I can put some stuff down for myself to finish for tomorrow. And, the 4 quadrants that Indu ma'am talked about previously are also really useful in helping me chalk out what I want to finish out through the day, so that whatever is then left for me to do, I can actually park it over for the next day, because it wasn't urgent. It was important, but it wasn't urgent. So I've wrapped up the urgents. If it's important, I can do it tomorrow, but I call hard stop at a certain point in time. And that's what a lot of us don't do. We don't pull hard stops. And hard stops are really, really, really crucial. There is also one question that's come up on collaborative teaching. And how is it that we can actually manage our time more effectively if we're collaborating with others? Any ideas that either of you would like to share on that?
Indeed, do you want to take that one, or?
You could carry on, because I did talk about flip learning, so if you want to add something more to it, please go ahead.
Yeah, and did you want to expand on flip learning? Because I think that's quite a good thing. Yes, you want to expand on that. I think quite a few people were asking about that, and I think that would help. Yeah.
Absolutely. So flip learning, as I said earlier, so it's like reversing your classwork and homework, flipping your classwork and homework, right? So, so initially, normally in traditional classrooms, what we do is that as teachers, we, broach on a topic and discuss and tell students to go back home, go through the topic and come back to us if they have any doubts, any queries, any problems. So here in flip learning, we reverse the order. So we give out the study content, material, and videos, etc., to our learners and tell them to go through them. So this really eases out a lot of pressure on the learners also, because they have the liberty of going through those videos, over and over again, which may not really happen, in a traditional classroom. So, they can go over the videos and study material, as many times at their own pace and come back to the class, because once they go through all that, they do have some questions, they do have some doubts, they do want to kind of discuss, a few points. And some of them, who are completely gung-ho about, everything, they want to come back to the class and give presentations. So it really, really helps a lot. So we have been all this while we've been talking about, promoting student agency, and having our classrooms, which are led by students. So flip learning is a great technique, a great way of having students lead their own learning, take the responsibility onus of their own learning. So I feel, this is something which can be tried out. Initially, of course, there could be challenges. Something new that we try out. Well, it does have challenges, but it does work out. And there is a lot of literature, a lot of reading material which is available. You could just read that and find out, what suits your classrooms the best. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Indy. Pallavi seems to have vanished. Great, isn't it?
Yeah, I think her connectivity was.
Yeah, a wee bit low. Okay, thanks, Indy. So what I will do is I will just start. Okay, so what I want to say is just thank you very much to Team Highr and Pallavi for this great privilege and honor to present today. Indeed, thank you for that amazing presentation. I am definitely going to try Rescue Time. I would love to know that app that tells me exactly how many minutes I've been doing exact X, Y, and Z. So I look forward to trying that one. So excellent. Thank you, Indy, for that.
Thank you.
Right, I'm going to share my screen. Let's just see. Right, excuse me, everyone. And this is great. This is when you. Okay. Right. Good afternoon, everybody. So it's still just the end of the morning here in Scotland. We're sitting at 19 degrees and I'm presenting from St Andrews. I head up junior school at King's College, India, and it's a relatively new school. We've just been going, this will be our 4th year. So what I want us all to remember today is we're talking about time management, but also as teachers, we're wanting to think about, you know, does it improve the educational journey of our children, as we are teachers first and foremost. What is the definition of time management? Okay, so it's the ability to use one's time effectively and productively, and we're going to look at that in the teaching context. Got quite an amusing little poster here. I'm not saying my teacher is Wonder Woman. I'm just saying no one has ever seen her and Wonder Woman in the same room. So my apologies, gents. Maybe I should say Superman as well. I'm sure there's a few gents out there in our audience too. So yes, I think as teachers, even if there was 36 hours in the day, there wouldn't be enough time for us to get through everything that we would like to do. But part of the time management is how are we going to improve our students' learning throughout this? How can we be more productive in our time management to help that happen? So the various areas I'm going to look at today with you, I'm going to look at my A game, how we can manage priorities. I'm going to look at your time, how you're going to spend your time as a teacher. I'm going to look at communication. I'm going to look at marking and your personal time. For me, the biggest thing I've ever learned through teaching, and I wasn't a teacher when I found this out, was I had the great honour of working with the Scottish golf squad, the national squad. This was over 5-6 years ago, and I was told to think about an A game. When you go up on the day, what is your A game? Okay. What is the main thing that you have to accomplish that day? And we all know as teachers, we have so much to accomplish in a day. And I do think sometimes we get completely stressed out with what have I got to achieve? I think if you can simplify it, and think about your A game. What's the one thing I have to do by the end of that day? If you get it done, you give yourself a reward. Cup of coffee. I love Cadbury's chocolate. Give yourself a chocolate. I did my A game today. For me, that has helped me de-stress how I cope with things. I got through my A game and you feel much happier. The other thing we have to think about, time management. It's not really time management, it's self-management. How are you going to manage your time? So you need to take a little bit more ownership about how you manage your own time. And the other thing, stay hydrated. We have to drink 3 litres of water a day. How often have you gone to a meeting when you're feeling lethargic at the end of the day, you're feeling drowsy, you've got a sore head? Keep drinking your water. Very easy to do that in India, maybe not so much back in Scotland. Again, staying hydrated makes you feel better, more alert. Again, that's part of your management and self-management. I think Indu already said that. Create a to-do list. Okay, create your to-do list at the start of the week. Here's one of my to-do lists. And there it is at the beginning. Okay, by the end of that week, I hadn't really got through it all. So I just carry on and add them on to the next week. Smart. Are they smart? Is your to-do list smart? Okay. So make sure that the attainable goals, okay, is it something that you can actually do? I wrote down a book list there. That was never going to be manageable. So I needed to rethink that. Okay, time bound. Think about things that you can do in an achievable amount of time. I was worrying about exams way back in March. Well, let's not think about those exams in March. Let's think about the schemes of work at this present time so that those exams in March are going to be a little bit easier. Things like relevant. Okay, I was going to make labels for playground boxes. Actually, I can get my teaching assistant to do that. So again, think about smart to-do lists. Think about when you are the most productive. I'm a bit of a lark. I love getting up early in the morning and I love doing things early in the morning. If that's your most productive time in the day, get up 30 minutes earlier. I have a friend who's a night owl, and you could be one or the other. Okay, she loves going to bed. So basically, she goes to bed when I get up. So we have great conversations. She phones me from Britain and I talk to her from India. So again, think about when you're most productive. Get up 30 minutes earlier, stay and go to bed 30 minutes later. Think about what works for you. Set yourself a time limit to do a job. These PPTs that we do, I've just had to do a PPT for Highr, and set yourself a time limit, 20 minutes to convey 2-digit multiplication. But you might want to, you keep adding, don't you? You keep, oh, well, I'll just put another slide in, or I'll just make the graphics a little bit better. Give yourself a cutoff time, 20 minutes. I think I've spent hours in this PT, and if I still had another 3 days, I'd still be doing things. Go to meetings on time, that's huge. And I think my staff can guarantee this. If I say a meeting starts at 2:30, it starts at 2:30. Again, if it goes on longer than that, staff, it just eats into your time and wastes time. So your meeting starting time, staff very quickly know they need to be there at 2:30 because she started. And then you know you can finish on time. Again, you're managing time more productively. Give other people your time, right? Give them undisturbed time. Undisturbed time means less misunderstandings, and then you don't have to repeat yourself. And here's another one, okay? And this is a one that we're all fighting with at the moment. Being online, being with extended families, being at home. Have a cutoff time. You must spend time with your family. Make your cutoff time 9 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night. Obviously, 7 o'clock at night is going to be work better if you've got younger family, and stick to it. Okay, as Pallavi so rightly said, you know, it will still be there tomorrow. And I have got a great quote. The graveyard is full of indispensable people. The work will still be there tomorrow, but your family is so important. Okay, make time for them. 7 o'clock, cut it off. And give yourself a wee reward. Every now and again, coffee, a chocolate. Okay. Managing priorities. Okay, that's another one. Okay, what do we do first? How do we do it? Planning. My son and my husband are both in the Air Force, and they talk about the 6 Ps. I substitute pitiful, which should be something else, but basically pitiful poor planning leads to pitiful poor performance. Your planning, okay, might be useless, but it is indispensable. If you have got excellent schemes of work out there, excellent planners for the day, then that helps everything go much more smoothly. You might get to the end of the day and say, I didn't achieve it, but it's still there for the next day. Where is your planning? Is it all in one place? I love to use Google. I think Google is great. Why is Google great? Okay, you lose your laptop is stolen, your pen drive is stolen, all your documents are on your laptop, something goes wrong. Google, it's up there. Okay, you just log on from your email account and it's there. Keep it all in one space will be great. Organising your workspace, that's another huge thing as well. Think about your classroom. Again, time management. How often do you have students coming up to you going, where's this, where's that, can I do this, can I do that? Everything is organised, and that takes time at the beginning of the year. Get them into some sort of routine. The textbooks go here, the jotters there, the pencil sharpeners there, extra pencils. How many times do students in your class come up and go, I don't have a pencil? Well, you've got your little tub of pencils, pencils with their names on it. It's there on your desk. They know, they go straight there, collect their pencil and bring it back. They don't ask you. Again, leads to a much more productive, effective classroom. Homework. I'm not going to touch too much more on that. That is a huge one. I'm sure we could have a whole webinar on homework on its own. I find in our department, homework works well, going out on a Friday, back in on a Monday. So you've got the whole week to mark or look at the homework. Parents love things getting marked. But again, for us, that works well. Think about when you give the homework out, have you given yourself enough time to mark it and look at it? Marking, I'll go into that in a bit more. Communication, again, we're going to look at that, and personal time. These are all priorities we have to manage as a teacher. Okay. Marking. Okay. This is, again, we had a fantastic webinar on Highr last week on that, and I certainly managed to glean a few more wonderful things to take into my classroom. And I think that picture says it all. Eat, sleep, mark, repeat. How many times have we looked at that huge pile of books? We're now online and it's great. We don't have those pile of books. And I think it has revolutionized our marking. I think now, if we are back in the classroom, we are going to look at different ways, which I think will make our workload enormously better. One of the things, and this is a cultural difference between Scotland and India, teachers love to sign their books, sign it and date it. For me, I've eliminated that from my department. Why do you sign it? You know, I know you're the homeroom teacher, I know you're marking it. Why are you dating it? Well, the students already got the date on it. Again, that's just managing your time. You don't need to sign and mark, date your book. Verbal feedback, that's great. Again, if you can give your class verbal feedback, again, that gets rid of marking those books. Flipgrid, love it. Absolutely love it. I think for me, and I think for a lot of you out there, this has revolutionized marking. And I'm just going to share my screen with you, and I'm just going to see, and here we go. Oh, here we go. And hopefully you can hear this. And this is Pranav. And he is...
Hello everyone. Today I am going to read Run for the Hills, Geronimo. The first chapter is Relax.
So Pranav read his guided reading. He's doing guided reading. We're all doing guided reading. He's got 1 minute 30 to read me a section. I then can give, okay, immediate feedback. Okay.
So, very well done. Good to hear you reading. So what can we do? What was good? That was great. You managed the difficult words well. Vacation. Do you understand what vacation means? So just make sure you do. If you don't, look it up in the dictionary. Also, next time, think about how you're reading.
So again, fantastic. Okay, so where did my downloads go? This is great, isn't it? You just love it when it goes well, and then all of a sudden, here we go. Sorry about that, folks. So Flipgrid revolutionizes your marking, makes it really easy, and the students love it. So it takes away from that heavy workload of marking books. Peer marking, use your peers to mark each other. If you set up a rubric, the students know really well what they have to look at, and it does work exceedingly well. Stampers. Okay, we discussed it verbally, verbal feedback given, brilliant, use stampers. Padlet, again, this is fantastic. So instead of, we have just used a Padlet for a timeline. So I can look at the Padlet, and I can see how well the students have managed to understand timelines. So I'm just going to share that with you. And here we go. So we've been doing the Shang dynasty, and we have been looking at the Shang dynasty and looking at the Indian timeline at the same time. And again, I can see very quickly who understands a timeline, who understands where the dates fit in a timeline. I've understand who's managing their homework. So fantastic. Takes away, doing a timeline in their book takes away from the marking. Okay. Cam Scanner, and unfortunately, what's happened with Cam Scanner is that it's now banned in India, but again, that was great for Google Classroom. All documents could go onto one page, and you very quickly scanned down everything and made comments. Google Classroom at the moment, if it is a PDF, you've got to open one PDF, comment, close it down. So Cam Scanner worked. I'm sure maybe somebody out there has got an equivalent to help you, but that was certainly wonderful. Use an exit ticket on Jamboard. Did they understand the lesson of the day? Very quickly, you can see who understands. And again, that will help with your assessment and deciding, is your planning good for the next day? But again, you have eliminated the jotters, which is, I think, a fantastic time for making everything a bit more effective and productive. So communication, I'm very aware of timing, so I'm just maybe going to quiz through this. Communication is huge. And again, the better communication we have, the more time effective we can be. Better communication leads to better understanding and using the correct channel based on your priorities. I do find that it's better to pick up the phone and have a chat. Let's have a chat. Take the time to chat about a problem, have an open door policy. That one-to-one time leads to less misunderstanding. When you're having that one-to-one chat, remember something personal, remember something about their outside interests, especially as you're a member of management. Okay, show that teacher that you care about them, that you know something about them. Management, I am in the lucky position that I'm management. I'm also in the teaching classroom, so I've got the best of both worlds. I still love interacting with my children, but again, I have a management role. Management, communication, I like to send out a week ahead email. What have we got in the week coming up? What's important? What do we need to make sure we remember? And again, that email, just make sure we're all on the same page. Again, making sure time management fits in very well with that. What about looking at our emails? Wow, how often do we do that? We hear the ping and we go, oh, I just have to look at it. Don't do that. Now, I may be preaching something, I don't necessarily practice it, but set aside a time in your day to look at that emails. Okay, it might be 5 o'clock, 9 o'clock, lunchtime, set aside a time. What about scheduling your emails? Okay, I'm going to send them all at 5 o'clock at night. There's always that one person, as soon as you send them an email, bing, they're straight back at you. Okay, so schedule them. I had an old principal, 9 o'clock Monday morning in the cave. It was great. He didn't intrude on my weekend, which was lovely, but 9 o'clock Monday morning, I knew I would get emails from him. Switch your phone off during the day. We, on an average, look at our phone 100 times in a day. Wow. That maybe roughly a minute each time we look at it, 1 hour 40, wasted 1 hour 40. Just put them away, lock them away when you're teaching. If you think your granny's not well, get them to phone the secretary. Okay, they will look after you. If there's something urgent, feed your phone to the secretary. They'll get back to you. Concentrate on your teaching, concentrate on your day, and get rid of that. So easy just to keep looking at your phone. Meetings, make an agenda. SLT, let's make an agenda for your meetings and share that agenda. Okay, share that agenda. Staff will look at it. They can add comments in. So you get to that agenda and wow, okay, there's actually some things you don't need to discuss because they've filled in their comments beforehand, or they've said, yeah, no, that's fine. So again, your meetings are much more productive, much more effective. And don't gossip. All right. It's lovely when you have these chats. It's lovely to have these meetings. Don't gossip. Be happy, stay positive. If you've got a happy environment, everybody's good round about you. Again, everybody's much keener to work alongside you and have a more productive time. So in conclusion, okay, we're here about managing your time. At the moment, I think when we're online, family time, personal time is huge. Where is that divide? Have a cut-off time. Family, if it's 7 o'clock at night, for me, I'm maybe a bit later, maybe about 9 o'clock at night. Have a cut-off time and stick to it. Take time for yourself. I have a me day. Saturday is a me day, okay? I like to go, I like to get my hair done. Like to have lunch with my family and friends. I go out for a meal and go for a coffee. In conclusion, think about your A game. For me, that really de-stressed everything. Think about your A game. What one thing do you really want to accomplish in that day? Give yourself a reward, and trust me, that made me feel so good. I did my A game today. It was great, felt great, and everything else is a bonus, which was lovely. Remember, time management is self-management. It's up to you to how you can start to really organize your day, and hopefully we can give you a few tips. Teachers out there, it's very difficult. Management will come to you and ask you to do things. Sometimes learn to maybe say no. Okay, they've just asked you to do the scheme of work for this next 6 weeks ahead. Wow, I can't do that at the moment. So instead of saying no, just maybe learn to say, I don't have time at the moment. It's not a priority. Can I get back to you? Okay, that's something else maybe we need to have in our arsenal of vocabulary as well when we're dealing with other members of staff and management. Okay, ladies and gents, thank you very much for your time today. I hope you've got a few tips that you might be able to go away with and use in the days and the weeks ahead. Over to you, Pallavi.
Claire, thank you so much for that. There were so many wonderful insights, particularly to do with marking as well as communication, something that I feel as educators takes up so much of our time. I think majority of the time that anybody ever asked me when I was teaching, what are you up to? I'm just grading papers. We were always grading, you know, always marking, always giving feedback, because it's such an important, I think the most important part of our role as educators is to be able to give feedback. But there are some amazing tools out there which actually allow you to cut down on your marking time, and also the way in which you design your activities, like you talked about using Flipgrid and Padlet. Floop is another great tool. You also have tools like Seesaw, lots of other tools that allow kids to give each other feedback, which, you know, in some ways also takes away from the amount of time or the layers of feedback that you would need to give to a particular task. So it's great to hear all those wonderful ideas that you had about marking and communication, and also very importantly, about not answering every email the minute it comes, which is such a massive temptation. And I think that all of us here today are perhaps guilty of having done that at some point in time, where we just reach out to our phones the minute it pings. Yes, it's so true that we have to put aside a time in the day when we do want to answer emails and not keep answering emails at any given point in time. There was just one question that was coming up, Claire, about stampers. Could you tell us a little bit more about what those are?
Right, so stampers are, and I meant to get I do apologize, it was one of my to-do lists, and because I'm not with my books here, it was something I was going to take a photograph of, but unfortunately I don't have any of my daughters here at the moment. So basically stamps that say verbal feedback given. So you've got a little stamp, and parents love to see things marked. But sometimes when you're having an open discussion with your students, you know, the parents don't understand that. So you'll just go VF. So it's a little stamper that says VF, verbal feedback. Okay, I discussed this with the class. We did have a discussion about it. They've all got verbal feedback. They all know what to do moving on to improve their learning. But again, stampers are great. So it's a great company over here that does them, but I know, I'm sure you can get some in India as well. But for me, I've got a whole drawer full of stampers that cover various discussions. House points, you know, I might give them a house point, so HP goes on there as a little reward for the work that they've done. Smiley face, excellent job, although we like to try and be a little bit more prescriptive when we just give something. But certainly verbal feedback or we had a discussion are quite nice, just in a wee stamper that sticks on their jotter, which is good.
Fantastic. Yeah, stampers always work really well. And it's also a sort of visual reminder to kids. Also, not just that, you know, you've given feedback or whatever, but it's also that somebody's done something well. And Class Dojo is in fact a great tool that helps you do that very, very effectively. So for those of you who are looking to try out stamps or little praise markers, you can try out this app called Class Dojo, which is absolutely free for teachers, parents, and students to use. There was also another question that came in on some of the different ways in which, you know, teachers often don't have the autonomy to take a lot of these decisions around time management. Claire, I know you said that teachers should sort of stand up and say, no, I don't have the time for this right now. But, you know, perhaps this also has to do with school culture. And what are some ways in which perhaps some of the school leaders who are with us in the audience today can try and promote this kind of openness within their school cultures, where time management is actively, you know, talked about, where everybody is allowed that time and space as well. So I'm opening this out to both you and Claire, both you and Indu ma'am, to sort of talk about from the wearing your school leader hats and answering that.
So may I, Claire?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So in fact, you know, I did share this. So when we had switched over from in-person to online classes, you know, so there was a lot of work, and as a result, you know, there was absolutely no end time for any task, you know. So there were teachers, you know, who were messaging each other and exchanging, you know, videos and other lesson plans, etc., you know, with each other till late at night. So as a result, you know, I could see that, you know, they were looking quite stressed out. And as I mentioned in my presentation also, so then we decided that we are going to be planning ahead, you know. So we planned for the month of July, in June, and whatever had to be added on, you know, that got added on later. But, you know, now I have very clearly communicated to all my teachers and my headmistresses and everybody that let's respect, you know, our teachers' time, and let's have a cutoff time, you know. So if let's say school timings are from 8 to 2:30, we should try and complete our work, you know, within that time, so that teachers feel that, okay, you know, school time is over, you know. So condensed, you know, school working hours, you know, should be followed. And teachers should really have time for themselves and their families, so that, you know, they are equally enthusiastic about their school work also. So we've started doing that, and you know, a lot of teachers have thanked me about you know, being thoughtful. You know, I mean, it's not only for them. I think it's for all of us. You know, that when teachers are working, we are also completely involved. You know, so when they are working till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, you know, so we are also involved. You know, so they might send us also. So it's like respecting everybody's time and space. And you know, so now we are working till 2:30. So it's like everybody knows that teachers are going to be working till 2:30. In case of emergency, you know, so quadrant 1, you know, that we had spoken about, it does happen that there are spillovers. So you know, 5% of the time is kept for those spillovers. Otherwise, we are trying to condense our school timings. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Claire, your inputs on that as a school head.
I don't know, as a school leader, for me, I think it's valuing your staff and giving them recognition, and I don't know, sometimes just saying thank you or having a cup of coffee and a tea and a bit of cake. And sometimes saying, right, okay, we're switching off, you know, school's finished, meeting's finished, you know, let's have time to get to know each other a little bit better. I think we are too guilty, and I know I am too, of expecting a lot from our team. And I think sometimes as management, we need to give back a little bit and just say, right, we're having a bit of our time today. I'm not going to ask you to do schemes of work. Let's go for a coffee and I'll bring in a cake. And they really enjoy that. And I think that's when we sort of de-stress a little bit. And I think it's important in this, well, obviously we can't see each other at the moment, but I know we're all desperate to get back together again. So we can share in that. So yeah, I think as leaders, we need to be able to show that we do switch off, that we do say, right, enough, today's finished. The meeting's finished at 5:30, so we stop at 5:30. And we don't go, oh, there's just something else. You know, we need to lead the way in showing when the cutoff point is. I'm not saying I always practice what I preach, but I like to think that, you know, when the cutoff is 5:30, we do cut off. I think that's important, and we give them rewards for the hard work that they do, because they do an amazing job, and they are doing an amazing job just now. I mean, everybody out there that's working in these online experiences, it's just been incredibly hard. And I do thank everybody here today that's watching. You're giving up extra time, and it's been amazing. So thank you, everybody.
That's fantastic. And on that note, we would want to sign off. We do want to let you get on with your evening and spend time with your friends and your family at home, and just maybe some me time as well. So I'd like to thank both our panelists today, Claire White, Indu Yadav, for being here with us, for sharing these fantastic strategies. Once again, we will be sending across everything that the panelists shared with us today, their presentations, as well as a recording of this session, for you to keep as reminders, to keep reminding yourself that what you're doing is enough. It's more than enough. And that you don't need to beat yourselves up if something doesn't get finished today. There's always tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And that we all, you know, at the end of the day, it's important to know that the work that we do as educators is important to students out there. And that our students love us, and that we are being able to, even in these difficult times, we are some of the few people out there in the world who are still being able to continue doing the work that we set out to do. So I think that in itself is a fantastic thing to be grateful for. So on that note, thank you once again to both our panelists, to all the wonderful participants who came in today, and for all the great questions that you asked. And we hope that you've gone away from this this webinar feeling a little less stressed out and overwhelmed and burnt out, and that you have some tips and tricks to help prevent that from happening as well. We look forward to seeing you on Wednesday, which is the last webinar for Summer of Learning on teachers as leaders. So do join us in as we talk about leadership skills in the last session for this Summer of Learning program. And we look forward to hearing from you on our Facebook group and on social media about what you thought about the session. Any other questions that you would like us to answer, please feel free to post them later as well. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Pallavi. Thank you, Claire. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Indy. Bye.